very happy to present Andrea Serrahn of Serrahna. I'm amazed. There are so many people out here. This is really exciting. Most people get really afraid to go to India. I don't. I get a little afraid to talk to 150 people. So bear with me in my nerves, please. Namaste, salam alaikum. Happy spring, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Is that better? Okay. As Valeri mentioned, my name is Andrea Serrahn, and I'm the owner and designer of Serrahna Boutique for the last 10 years, which is in Oakland's Rockridge district on College Ave. I've been traveling to India for the past 23 years. I first went to India in 1990, and I have steadily, over the years, developed and deepened my interest and respect for this amazing country. Now, before I get into my early roots and inspirations, I have to remark upon all the rain we've been having lately, and I'm so glad it's not raining today, because the last thing I wanted to do was come in here all soggy. So, when I travel to India during the monsoon, which is every summer, it's wet. It's very moist and it's very humid. And it's kind of a mixed blessing because it is so darn hot. It's extremely hot there. And so you welcome the rains because it breaks that heat. But when that rain comes down, it comes down. Hard, hot, and heavy. So one time recently, in the summer, I went to India and I realized I didn't bring my umbrella. Oh, no problem, I'll just pick up my umbrella at my favorite little umbrella stand, which is kind of a store about twice as big as this platform. And this man has this sort of box-shaped arrangement stacked high with umbrellas. And there were so many people in that shop, and I said, I have got to get an umbrella. And I'm not willing to stand in what's considered to be an Indian queue, which is a jostling and pushing and shoving of people and all humanity pressed against each other. I can't do that. I have to wait in line, but that's not going to work either, and I need an umbrella. So I was looking over his shoulder, this guy in front of me, and about 3 or 4 people deep, I could see that there was a beautiful coral pink umbrella. Fine, I could live with that for 3 weeks. Okay, that's the one I want. So I figured when that guy moved a little bit to the left, I could just jump forward and grab that umbrella. So I was waiting and waiting, and finally he moved, and I lunged forward, and my hand went right into his trouser pocket. And he turned around, and he said, madam, and his face softened, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, and it was a very embarrassing but funny little moment. Okay, so, yeah, and also during the monsoon, it's hot and I sweat. Everyone sweats. It's just the way it is. It's like being in a sauna 24/7. It's hard not to. Now, imagine wearing this in that heat. Doesn't keep you dry, it just keeps you hot. And I wore this today not only to grab your attention, but help illustrate an example of beauty as perceived generally by the Islamic community in India and in the Middle East. As we all know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and every culture interprets beauty differently. Does anyone know the technical name of what I have on my head? Hijab is what we call it in India. It's a type of headscarf worn to show respect and modesty for oneself and what lies underneath. So when in India, and even here today, I'm not going to delve into the politics or ethics or customs around this unique and unusual headpiece. I'm not wanting to make a value judgment. I just find it best to observe the cultural differences of beauty that exist between the West and the East. I don't try to define it in terms of what we, the liberated West, perceives of as perhaps uncomfortable or oppressive. Spending time within the Islamic community has asked me to set aside judgment and just sit comfortably with observation. But my curiosity is always piqued when I see a woman wearing a veil or a burqa. I see these women come down the road, sometimes balancing water pots on her head and majestically sort of wading through the crowds with these big billowing black pieces of fabric. And my curiosity just piques. I look at her and I think, what does she look like? And I think that's what the issue is, or the question is, what does she look like? And does anyone here wonder that? Are you curious? Yes, I'm seeing some people nod their heads. Okay. I have never worn one of these before in my life, but I thought today would be a good day to do that. Let's see. When I was a little girl, I fell in love with clothes, and color, and fabric. And where's my brother? Is he around? He's over there. And he'll probably remember this. My mom said, if you want all those beautiful clothes, you can have them, but you'll just have to make them. I thought, okay, I understand we can't afford to buy all these clothes. I'll make them. She said, I will teach you how to sew. And she did. She taught me how to sew. I learned at probably the age of 8. And I actually got my first merit badge in Girl Scouts in sewing. And I always put that on my resume and my bio because I think that's really important. It certainly planted the seed for what has now become Serrahna today. Let's see. I took my first trip to India in 1990. I was traveling throughout Southeast Asia. I was trying to get some friends to accompany me. They wanted to stay in Thailand. I said, no, I have to go to India. I have to go, I have to go. And they wouldn't come. So I went on my own, which was kind of a scary thing. I was much younger, long blonde hair, traveling to Delhi at 3 a.m. in the morning, not knowing where I was going to stay. That was a little scary. But of course I met an adventuresome, outgoing young lady on the plane. She said, I know of a guest house. So I joined up with her and hung out with her until I noticed that her idea of a good time was wearing hot pants around town. Then we parted our ways. India at that time had, and probably still has, a movie set of parents. Everything in India is intrinsically India. In that year, in 1990, free trade was not available in India. So every single product on the marketplace had that Indian flavor, that Indian feel, that Indian brand. The only foreign products in India were basically smuggled in. So I always felt like I was on a movie set, because everything was foreign. Everything was different. From the cars, the clothing, of course, even the batteries and the pens and the pencils and the notebooks, and it was just absolutely mind-boggling. I fell in love with India pretty fast, and I remember on the very first trip having the thought that I don't know how and I don't know when, but I know I will do something with this culture and this fabric. And I just held on to that little seed of thought and never let it go. Never let it go. I returned to India like three years later and discovered Gujarat and Bhuj, and I returned there every year thereafter. Each trip has obviously deepened the Indian connection. It's an education that I've paid for via my time and plane fare. In 1996, I met the artisans in Bhuj that still shape my collection today. I was able to work very closely with two major important craftsmen. One fellow who does tie and dye work, Khatri Ali Mohammed Isha, and as well as a block printer, Khatri Mohammed Siddiq. The Islamic community, by and large, are the people that are responsible for all the beautiful arts and crafts in India. They're the embroiderers. They do the embroidery here, the embroidery here. They do the tie and dye work. They do the printing work. They do the general dyeing work. The weavers can be Hindu, can be Muslim, but everything I described up till now basically belongs to the Islamic community. So that was my first introduction to India, really. People always assumed I knew a lot about the Hindu culture, but that actually came later on and is still developing. Let's see. So after spending time in these fellows' cottage industry production workshops, I felt so encouraged to design my own block print patterns. I mean, these are the kind of people who said, sure, come into my block print studio. Let me show you how we print the fabric. This is how we carve the blocks. This is how we print it on the fabric. They just opened the doors to us, to me, and to Angelina, who came with me one time. There you are. And so it became accessible. It became very accessible and like a tangible reality that I could actually get close and involved. So I decided to design my own blocks, and I sat in my little simple guest house room where I took bucket baths and slept on just a basic mattress with a single bulb hanging, and would just sit there and draw my blocks and figured out patterns that I could repeat. And then I found a man who carved the blocks and brought those designs to him. And then I ran out of time and money, and I had to come back to the States. So I got that project that far, and that was very exciting. And then I returned to India, actually 4 months later, and I was in Bombay. And I actually found my designs, those designs that I had done 4 months previous, already designed and produced and for sale in a store kind of like the equivalent of Britex. I couldn't believe it. I walked in and I was looking at all the fabric, marveling at all the color, all the different beautiful prints and patterns, and I went up to this case and I looked underneath and I saw, oh my God. Madam, you like it? You want to buy it? You like it? You like it? The salesman thought he had a sure sale. Work I had done, and he said, you have a passion. You can get a full background. I said, I'm not an academic, I'm an artist. I have a degree in Spanish 15 years ago. I'm not an academic. He said, no, you can get yourself a Fulbright grant. And so, okay, maybe I can. And I put together a proposal and I sent it in. And, hi Alexander, this is my nephew here. He's not wearing Serrahna. So I pulled it together and sent off an application, and guess what? I found out that the foundation allocates about 2% of their funding for artists at large. And I did it, I pulled it off. And they sent me to India for a year. So suddenly I was not only going under my own desires and impetus, but I had sort of the seal of approval saying, yes, we believe in you, we validate what you're doing, this is great.